There will come a moment, maybe today, maybe years from now, where you will finally let go. And in that instant, the thing you feared most will happen. Silence, emptiness, the absence of the chaos you've grown used to. But here's the part they don't tell you, that silence isn't the end. It's the beginning. It's the sound of your soul exhaling for the first time in years. I'm going to tell you what happens in the days after you release what was never yours to carry. I'm going to show you the peace that's been waiting on the other side of your surrender. But first, you need to understand why you're still holding on and what it's actually costing you, because the price is higher than you think. You've been told that love requires sacrifice, and that's true. But no one ever taught you the difference between sacred sacrifice and self-destruction. You've been conditioned to believe that walking away from painful love makes you a quitter, that endurance equals devotion, that if you just love harder, it will finally be enough. But here's the myth I'm dismantling today. Not all love is meant to be kept. Some love is a lesson. Some love is a mirror showing you where you've abandoned yourself. And some love is simply toxic soil where nothing holy can grow. This video will show you why clinging to harmful love isn't faithfulness, it's idolatry. How to distinguish between love that refines you and love that erases you. The spiritual truth about release. It's not loss, it's liberation. What peace actually feels like when you stop negotiating with pain. I'm not here to give you permission to quit. I'm here to show you that some endings are resurrections in disguise. I once spoke of a man who had a fig tree planted in his vineyard. Year after year, he came looking for fruit, and year after year, he found nothing. The tree consumed water meant for the vines. Its roots tangled with those that could actually bear life, and still, he watered it. Still, he pruned it. Still, he waited. One day, his gardener said, "Cut it down. Why should it use up the soil?" But the man couldn't. He had planted it with his own hands. He remembered the day he'd set it in the ground, full of hope. To cut it down felt like admitting failure, like admitting he'd wasted years. So he gave it one more season, then another, then another. Do you see yourself in this story? You're watering something that stopped growing years ago. You're giving your best soil to what refuses to bear fruit. And every day you wait, you're starving the parts of your life that could actually flourish. Listen to me carefully. This isn't just about a tree. This is about the relationship you keep resuscitating, the person you keep making excuses for, the love you keep defending even though it's been dead for longer than you want to admit. You know what I'm talking about. You feel it in your chest right now, that tightness, that resistance, that voice that says, "But what if I'm wrong? What if they change? What if I give up right before the breakthrough?" And that's exactly how the enemy of your peace keeps you trapped. By convincing you that the miracle is always one more season away, that if you just hold on a little longer, sacrifice a little more, diminish yourself a little further, the fruit will finally come. But here's what I need you to understand. Keeping something alive is not the same as making it holy. Sometimes the most faithful thing you can do is stop forcing growth where there's only death. Sometimes cutting down the tree is the kindness that saves the garden. You think you're being loyal. You think you're being patient. You think you're demonstrating the kind of love I taught you. But I never told you to water dead things and call it devotion. I never told you to pour your life into soil that refuses to receive it. The man in my parable, he wasn't weak for planting the tree. He wasn't foolish for hoping. But he was hurting himself and everything around him by refusing to see what was obvious. This tree would never bear fruit, and the longer he kept it, the more he robbed from what could actually thrive. The vines around the fig tree were suffering. They were being choked out. Their roots couldn't spread because the dead tree's roots were in the way. And that's exactly what's happening in your life right now. That relationship that's taking all your energy, it's choking out your joy, your peace, your connection to me, your ability to give and receive real love. You keep thinking that if you just tend to it more carefully, if you just give it more time, more grace, more of yourself, it will finally turn around. But what if it won't? What if it can't? What if this thing you're clinging to is actually the one obstacle between you and the abundant life I promised you? The man finally listened to the gardener. He cut down the fig tree. And you know what happened? Within months, The vines around it exploded with fruit. The absence of the dead thing made room for the living. The soil that had been wasted on something barren suddenly nourished what was actually ready to grow, and for the first time in years, the vineyard produced the way it was meant to. You think letting go is loss, but I'm telling you it's harvest. It's the removal of the one thing that's been blocking your blessing. And I know that sounds harsh. I know it feels like I'm asking you to betray someone. But I'm not. I'm asking you to stop betraying yourself. I'm asking you to stop sacrificing your soul on the altar of someone else's refusal to grow. Because that's what this is really about. Not whether they're a bad person. Not whether they mean to hurt you, but whether they're capable right now, in this season, in this version of themselves, of being the partner, the friend, the presence that you need. And if they're not, no amount of your hoping will change that. No amount of your trying will transform them. No amount of your staying will make them ready. And the cruelest part is that you already know this. Deep down, beneath all the bargaining and the justifications and the second guessing, you know, you've known for a while, but you've been too afraid to act on it. Too afraid of what it means about you if you walk away. Too afraid of being alone. Too afraid of being wrong. Too afraid that letting go means you failed. But let me tell you something that's going to shift everything. You can't fail at something that was never yours to fix. You can't fail at making someone love you the way you need to be loved. You can't fail at forcing someone into a version of themselves they're not ready to become. The only failure here is continuing to pour yourself into a situation that's draining you of life. So what happened to the man after he cut down the tree? Did he regret it? Did he spend his nights wondering if he gave up too soon? No, because once the vine started producing, once he tasted the fruit that came from making space for what was actually alive, he realized something. He should have done it years earlier. He should have trusted the gardener the first time. He should have been honest about what was dead instead of pretending it was just dormant. And that's going to be you. One day, maybe sooner than you think, you're going to look back on this moment and wish you had let go earlier. You're going to see all the months or years you spent watering what couldn't grow. And you're going to ache for the version of yourself that didn't know any better. But you're also going to be grateful. Grateful that you finally had the courage to stop. Grateful that you chose yourself. Grateful that you made room for the fruit that was always meant to be yours. Now let me tell you about someone else. I met a woman once who had spent her entire life trying to fill a cup that had a hole in the bottom. She came to the well in the heat of the day, not because it was convenient, but because she was avoiding the other women. They knew her story. They knew she'd had 5 husbands. They knew she was living with a man who wouldn't marry her. And she knew what they thought, that she was broken, that she was desperate, that she couldn't keep love because something in her was fundamentally unworthy. But when I looked at her, I didn't see a woman who couldn't hold on to love. I saw a woman who had never been taught what love actually was. She'd been handed counterfeits her whole life and told they were treasure. She'd mistaken intensity for intimacy, possession for devotion, and every time a relationship collapsed, she thought, if I just try harder next time, if I'm more patient, more giving, more accommodating, more small, maybe then I'll be enough. So she kept going back to the well, kept drawing water that never satisfied her, kept believing that the next bucket would be different, and all the while, she was dying of thirst, not because there was no water, but because she was drinking from the wrong source. I asked her a question that broke everything open. Where is your husband? And she could have lied. She could have deflected. She could have performed the version of herself that she thought would make me approve of her. But something in my eyes, something in the way I asked, made her tell the truth. Probably the first honest thing she'd said aloud in years. And in that moment, she stopped performing, stopped pretending, stopped defending the narratives that were draining her dry. I told her about living water, the kind that doesn't run out, the kind that doesn't need to be earned or performed for, the kind that flows from within, not from another person's approval, not from a relationship status, not from external validation or someone finally choosing to stay. I told her that everything she'd been searching for in those men, the worth, the security, the sense that she mattered, it was already inside her. She just couldn't see it because she'd spent so long looking everywhere else. And here's the part that matters most. She left her water jar at the well. She walked away from the very thing she came for because she realized she'd been fetching the wrong water her whole life. She'd been going to relationships like they were wells, lowering her bucket again and again, hoping that this time she'd draw up something that would finally quench her thirst. But it never did. It never could. Because people aren't wells. They're not designed to be your source. You're that woman. You've been drawing from wells that can't satisfy you. You've been returning to the same place, the same pattern, the same person, hoping this time will be different, hoping that if you just lower the bucket one more time, if you just ask the right way, if you just prove your devotion one more time, the water will finally be clean, finally be enough, finally make you feel whole. But the water is still bitter, the thirst is still there, and every time you go back, you're just reinforcing the lie that you need them in order to survive, that you can't live without them, that your peace, your joy, your sense of self is located somewhere outside of you, in their hands, dependent on their willingness to give you what you need. What if I told you the answer isn't in the well? What if I told you it's already inside you, and the only thing stopping you from tasting it is your refusal to leave the jar behind? That jar represents everything you're still holding onto. The hope that they'll change, the belief that your suffering will eventually be rewarded, the story you've told yourself about who you are if this relationship doesn't work out, the identity you've built around being the one who stays, who endures, who loves through everything. And I'm telling you, as long as you're carrying that jar, you can't receive what I have for you. As long as you're clutching that narrative, you can't see the truth. You can't walk into freedom if your hands are full of chains. You can't run toward peace if you're dragging your pain behind you. The woman left the jar, not because she stopped caring, not because she became hard or cynical or closed off, but because she finally understood that she'd been asking the wrong thing to save her. She'd been going to the wrong place for her worth. And the moment she stopped, the moment she walked away from that well, she discovered that she wasn't empty. She was full of the very thing she'd been dying of thirst for. And that's what's going to happen to you. When you finally stop going back, when you finally stop lowering the bucket, when you finally leave the jar at the well and walk away, you're going to discover that you were never as dependent as you thought. You were never as fragile as they made you believe. You were always carrying the living water inside you. You just couldn't access it because you were too busy trying to drink from a source that was never meant to sustain you. Now, let me show you something. Let me show you the truth that most people never want to say out loud because it sounds too harsh, too direct, too unspiritual. But I didn't come to make you comfortable. I came to make you free, and freedom requires truth, even when truth is difficult. So here it is. Love that hurts you isn't love. It's attachment, and there's a massive difference between the two that you need to understand if you're ever going to break this cycle. Let me be very clear about something. I taught you to love your enemies. I taught you to forgive 70 times 7. I taught you to turn the other cheek. But I never not once told you to stay in a relationship that's destroying your soul and call it devotion. I never told you to tolerate abuse and call it grace. I never told you to let someone dismantle your peace, piece by piece, and call it loyalty. There's a difference between loving someone and being enslaved to them. Love is free. It's open-handed. It says, I see you as you are, and I honor your choice, even if it's not the choice I would want. I release you to your own path. I hope the best for you, but I'm not going to set myself on fire to keep you warm. Attachment, on the other hand, is desperate. It's closed-fisted. It says, I need you to be different so I can feel okay. I need you to change so I can stop hurting. I need you to validate me, to choose me, to prove to me that I'm worthy by staying. When you're attached, you're not in love. You're in fear. Fear of being alone. Fear of being wrong about them. Fear that if you let go, you'll never find anything better. Fear that letting them go means admitting you wasted all that time, all that energy, all those tears. And so, you twist yourself into smaller and smaller shapes, hoping that if you just disappear enough, if you just need less, if you just become more convenient, they'll finally have room to love you. But here's the truth, and this is going to sting. You cannot love someone into wholeness. You cannot sacrifice your peace and call it holy. And you cannot serve two masters. You'll either love me and the truth I've placed inside you, or you'll cling to the false comfort of a love that's killing you slowly. You'll either choose your own soul, or you'll choose the fantasy of who they might become someday. Real love doesn't demand that you lose yourself. Real love doesn't thrive on your suffering. Real love doesn't require you to shrink, to silence your needs, to apologize for existing. Real love makes space for you. It honors you. It sees you, and doesn't ask you to be smaller so it can feel bigger. And if the relationship you're in requires you to betray your own spirit just to keep the peace, that's not love. That's captivity. That's a cage you've convinced yourself is a home. I see you trying to argue with me right now. I see you thinking, but it's not that simple. But you don't understand the full situation, but they've been through so much. But I know they love me. They just don't know how to show it. And I hear you. I see the loyalty in your heart. I see the hope, but I also see the way that loyalty is being weaponized against you. I see the way that hope is being used to keep you tethered to something that's draining your life. And I need you to ask yourself a question, not the question you want to ask, but the question you've been avoiding. If this person never changes, if they stay exactly as they are right now for the rest of your life, is this a love that nourishes you? Is this a relationship that reflects the abundant life I promised you? Or is this a slow death you've been calling devotion? Because here's what I know about you. I know you're strong. I know you're capable of enduring almost anything. I know you've survived things that would have broken other people. But just because you can endure something doesn't mean you should. Just because you're capable of carrying a heavy weight doesn't mean that weight is yours to carry. And just because you can tolerate pain doesn't mean you're supposed to live in it. Strength isn't always about holding on. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do is let go. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is admit that you can't fix this, that you can't love them into changing, that you can't will this relationship into being what you need it to be. And that staying isn't noble, it's just familiar. It's just safe in the way that cages feel safe when you've been in them long enough to forget what freedom feels like. So let me tell you what real love looks like. Real love says, I want you to be whole, even if that wholeness doesn't include me. Real love says, I'm not going to manipulate you, or guilt you, or punish you into staying. Real love says, I release you to become whoever you're meant to be, and I trust that if we're meant to walk this path together, it will be clear. But I'm not going to beg, I'm not going to shrink, and I'm not going to betray myself to keep you comfortable. That's the love I'm calling you to. Not just toward them, toward yourself. Can you love yourself enough to stop accepting crumbs and calling it a feast? Can you love yourself enough to walk away from what's hurting you, even if it means facing the unknown? Can you love yourself enough to believe that you deserve more than this? Because I'm telling you, you do. You deserve a love that doesn't make you question your worth every single day. You deserve a relationship that doesn't require you to perform or prove or convince. You deserve peace. And if the person you're with can't give you that, not because they're a terrible person, but because they're not capable right now, then loving them from a distance is the kindest thing you can do for both of you. Now let me talk to you about the thing you're really afraid of. You're afraid that if you let go, the pain will be unbearable. You're afraid that the emptiness will swallow you. You're afraid that you'll spend the rest of your life regretting this decision, wondering if you gave up too soon, if you should have tried harder, if you threw away something that could have been beautiful. And I'm not going to lie to you. Letting go is going to hurt. It's going to hurt in ways you didn't know were possible. It's going to hurt like a part of you is being ripped out, like you're losing a limb, like you're standing in the wreckage of everything you thought your life would be, and you don't know how to build something new from the rubble. But here's what you need to understand. The pain you're trying to avoid by staying is already here. It's suffocating you. It's eroding your joy, your confidence, your connection to me. It's stealing your sleep. It's making you question everything about yourself. It's turning you into someone you don't recognize, someone who's anxious, controlling, small, desperate. And every day you stay, it gets heavier. Every day you stay, it takes more of you. The pain of leaving is sharp. It's immediate. It's the kind of pain that makes you double over and wonder if you'll survive it. But here's the difference. It has an end. It moves through you, and then it's gone. It transforms into wisdom, into strength, into freedom. The pain of staying doesn't end. It just becomes who you are. It seeps into your bones. It rewrites your definition of normal until you forget what it feels like to breathe without that weight on your chest. So yes, leaving will hurt, but staying will hollow you out until there's nothing left. And when you finally do leave, because you will, one way or another, because nobody can live like this forever, you'll look back and realize you stayed 1,000 days too long. You'll mourn all the time you gave to something that couldn't receive it. You'll grieve the version of yourself that could have been if you'd had the courage to choose yourself earlier, and I don't want that for you.